Hello again. You might think that in 21st century Britain, diseases such as syphilis and gonorrhea would be historical curiosities, like smallpox or the bubonic plague. After all, simple precautions during sex can greatly reduce the chances of catching these things, and if you should, then a course of antibiotics will soon cure them completely. So, use a condom if you don't want to catch a sexually transmitted disease, and see a doctor if you do notice any symptoms. It's simple, really. And yet, cases of gonorrhea are now at the highest level in this country since records began to be kept in 1918, at the end of the First World War. Yes, we have more cases of clap now in this country than during the Great War. Syphilis is running at the highest level since 1948, that is to say 75 years ago. You might think that this is an appalling state of affairs and that we ought to do something about it, perhaps by teaching school children about sex. You know the kind of thing, explaining to them how to avoid catching an STD and telling girls how not to get up the duff. That kind of thing. Sex education. There is, of course, a problem. Teaching kids about stuff like this would entail explaining to them that only girls can get pregnant and that boys should always use a condom, both to avoid pregnancy and also to stop diseases like gonorrhea from spreading like wildfire. Whoa, right there is a problem. Only girls can get pregnant? What madness is this? Rank transphobia. We all know that not everybody who gets pregnant is a girl. And of course, not only boys use condoms, some women also use them. There are, after all, hundreds of genders, so let's not get fixated on this binary model. As it happens, sex education lessons these days are such a minefield that teachers are very reluctant to speak plainly for fear of upsetting any trans pupils, and so they tiptoe around the subject because an accusation of transphobia can end a teaching career. This causes an atmosphere of coyness and an avoidance of talking plainly and explaining facts about pregnancy and so on. No wonder nobody likes to explain to the kids about something as simple as cancer of the cervix being caused by the human papillomavirus, and that this is associated with unprotected sex, especially at an early age. This too would be problematic because, of course, it is now the accepted wisdom that it is not only girls who have a cervix. This gets so complicated that it's easier not to mention the subject at all. Cancer of the cervix is, of course, a life-threatening disease, but nobody likes to talk about it. It's not quite nice, is it? So we won't mention cervixes at all. This whole mad business now has such a grip in our society, the idea that it is not only women who have cervixes, that we see that a charity concerned with endometriosis, a disorder of the womb, has now appointed a biological male as its chief executive. Endometriosis South Coast is now headed by somebody who has never actually had a womb. See the problem here? With that kind of thing going on, how are teachers supposed to be able to talk about cervixes and unwanted pregnancies as something affecting girls? Best not to talk about it at all, really. Don't take my word for it. The Children's Commissioner for England, Rachel de Souza, says that she is alarmed at the number of times that children have asked her, "What do I do about preventing pregnancy?" She says that they're not teaching these things well at school. Well, that's putting the case mildly. Incidentally, in the description to this video, I mentioned that children are taught that there are 648 genders. This is not me being funny. The other week I was speaking to a 15-year-old girl who is a family member, and she mentioned this interesting fact quite off the cuff. And when I asked about it, she said that she'd learned it in the PSAG lesson at school. That's an initialism, by the way, for personal, social, health and economic, and it's where sex education is supposed to take place at school. A casual conversation soon revealed that she had been taught nothing practical or useful, and indeed seemed as lacking in knowledge of the facts of life as an adolescent girl in Victorian England.